Alright, it's officially 2024, and ending off an amazing year of anime, I want to figure out what was the best season of anime. This is going to be split into 6 categories: romance, action, impactful moments, openings, and memes. The winner of each category gets 3 points, second place gets 2, third place gets 1, and fourth place gets 0. Last thing I want to mention is that I haven't watched every anime that came out this year, so I'm going to be basing it off of what I've watched or heard. Starting off with our first category, love. Something not every human knows they need until they have it. But love is a very important thing. If it wasn't for love, we wouldn't be here today. You know, because in order for you to be here, your parents would have needed to fuck. Oh, Jesus. In last place for the romance category is Fall. Trust me when I say Fall is going to have plenty of time to recover after this, because Fall in general was more of an action-packed season, but that doesn't mean that there was nothing, because Fall had my biggest guilty pleasure of the year, that being I'm in love with the villainess. This is probably the first Yuri anime I've watched, and I really liked it. And the other notable romance that came out in Fall was the 100 Girlfriends That Really, Really, Really Love You. Listen, I get it. Fan service is a thing, I'm not gonna pretend like I hate it, but sometimes there is such thing as too much at the moment, and you know, I'm not always in the feeling for that. If you're looking for an anime that is heavily fan service, then yeah, watch this. But with these two things being the only thing of note, I think that it's fair to say that this is going to be last place in terms of the romance category. In third place for the romance category, we have Summer. With the return of one of the more popular romances anime in recent memory, we have Horimiya's second season, which was a notably really fun weekly watch. Horimiya is another anime I recommend to people who are new to anime, just don't watch it in chronological order. Getting the positives out of the way, now we're getting into the not so great, which is The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. And that's because this is probably the most boring anime I watched this year. I could not tell you a single thing about what I watched, besides this thing. But that was the most memorable thing about the show, so. And then we have this. Listen, I don't want to be like the 100th person that tells you why Rent a Girlfriend is bad, but come on. How is this still going? How is this just repeating back and forth? I don't understand. And then I don't know anything about My Happy Marriage besides the fact that people really seem to like it, so that's a good thing at least. Now you may be wondering, why am I putting this in third place if, you know, I've been speaking kind of negatively about this season. And that's because there's honestly just more to talk about. Fall was just kind of dry for all the romance fans out there, so. In second place we have Winter, and I don't want to spoil anything, but Winter should enjoy this while it lasts. The only things I remember watching were Tomo-chan, Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, and do I even count this? Overall, in the romance department, I think that Tomo-chan is carrying. If you want a short and sweet romance, Tomo-chan is a great start. A dynamic between two childhood best friends that just works so well and is only 12 episodes long and has a very satisfying ending. There's also none of that misunderstanding bullshit that romance is known for, which is very refreshing. Even though this anime came out at the beginning of the year, I still look back on it very fondly as one of the better romances that I've seen. And then the next romance I saw, which was Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, was mixed. The basic summary is that an NPC gets noticed by the main girl, and somehow, some way, no one else notices him. Now, I feel conflicted. This was a pretty cute show, but the premise is really boring. But I was able to get through a whole season of it, so it's watchable. Any other romance animes I don't really know too much about besides The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, which I've heard people really enjoyed but did not pique my interest. So yeah, Winter is in second place. And if you're upset about it, please trust me when I say just let Winter have this. So spring is going to be a bit of a problem since it's going to be hard to contain my bias considering two of my favorite animes were airing at the same time. Right now we're talking about Love is War. Now Love is War is not only my favorite romance, but it's my favorite anime of all time. And after the amazing release of the third season last year, I was excited to see one of my favorite arcs in the manga get adapted into a movie. And I'll tell you this much, I definitely was not disappointed. The other animes I watched that were romance were Yamada-kun and Raylana. Alone, they were both pretty decent anime, but just didn't really stand out to me. But even without me enjoying those, spring was just stacked with romance anime that is kind of hard to ignore, such as Insomniac's Stay After Dark, The Dangers in My Heart, the continuation to Tonikawa, and Skip to Loafer. So for the end of the first round, yeah, this is not even a competition. Spring just dominated this year for romance. And on to the next round. Sometimes you don't pick the danger picks you. And the only thing you can do is fight.
Now that's fighting. And the person taking last in the action category is Winter.
The only shows I remember were Trigun Stampede and the 4th season of Bungo Stray Dogs. And I ended up dropping Nier Automata, so we're gonna talk about the other two. Now, I know nothing about Trigun besides the fact that it's an old anime and this remake is kind of a whole new thing, but even then, oh my god, the animation looks amazing. I've never seen CGI look this good. And as for Bungo Stray Dogs, I've kind of slept on it for way too long. Like, I only just recently started watching the newer seasons, and it's hella good. I can finally understand why people were singing such high praises about the new season. But yeah, that's the closest thing I could get to action. Vinland Saga has action in the later parts of its season, but most of that happened while it was airing in spring, so. And speaking of spring, in 3rd place was Spring. Now, I want to emphasize that just because this is 3rd place doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just that this year was heavy competition, and I don't think that Spring stood on top. Heavenly Delusions didn't have a lot of action scenes, but when it did, they went pretty hard. Masha was also hella cool, and Hell's Paradise could be better, but the main standout one is probably going to be Demon Slayer, since everyone's going to talk about that when it comes to action. And yeah, that's fair. Demon Slayer has been considered groundbreaking ever since it came out, so it's kind of hard to discredit it. Even though this is hands down the worst season of Demon Slayer, the action still stayed consistent, so there's that. In 2nd place, we have the fall season, and I don't know how people are going to take this, because there was a lot of action, just not that I saw that stood out to me. Like, Frieren has really beautiful animation, but I don't think it had as much fighting in it. And one thing going for fall season was the Shibuya arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. Other than that, I'm not that knowledgeable of fall season, so I could very well be wrong with this ranking. If spring dominated in the romance category, then summer by far dominated in the action category and is definitely first place. Starting off with the long-awaited season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen, specifically the hidden inventory arc or Gojo's backstory. And can I just say that I was not a fan of season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen, but this single-handedly won me over. This may be my favorite arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. One of the main reasons being that this is just amazing to look at. Like, any fight with Toji is a certified banger. And the hype doesn't end there, because Mushoku Tensei also came out with its 2nd season, and the fights were also still very consistently good. Mushoku Tensei and Jujutsu Kaisen alone could easily bring this up to 2 points, but the fact that Bleach and One Piece both dropped at the same time, Gear 5 was hyped up for an entire year. And that's because in the production of Gear 5, Toei was just dropping these big names. And you can argue that you're not emotionally attached to any of these animes, but you can just acknowledge how well animated they are. And that's kind of what the point of this category is. And just because of how stacked summer was, how could I not give it first place? This is just on another level. Alright, and that concludes the 2nd round. And now we move on to the 3rd. Impactful moments are things that'll go down in anime history, such as the ending for Code Geass, or the ending to How I Met Your Mom/Aunt.
Wanting to marry your brother. It's a weird chapter of Peak, but it sure was impactful. You know what's not impactful? Our 4th place for impactful moments, which is Winter.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see why I gave it 2 points in the beginning. Yeah, no one was really talking about Winter when any of these animes were dropping besides Blue Lock and Vinland Saga. Blue Lock was constantly hype and ended off on a pretty strong note, but the main thing carrying this season was the first half of Vinland Saga, and even then it gets topped by the later half of the season. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to drop this to 4th place. In 3rd place, we have Spring. Now, there's a bit more to talk about here, but the first thing I want to do is give more credit to Vinland Saga, because I didn't really do that when I was talking about Winter. Now, Vinland Saga had an amazing first season and had a lot to build on, and I think that it successfully did that. The line "I have no enemies" is an integral part to the series as a whole, and was probably people's moment of the year when it came to anime, but for me, it was 2nd place, losing to...
You're not gonna believe it.
Ai's death was so amazingly done, and it blew my high expectations from the manga out of the water. This scene alone got Oshi no Ko known to many people, and whether or not you enjoyed the rest of the season is not what's important. And the reason I'm going into so much detail about this is so I can shit talk Demon Slayer.
Bet you didn't see that one coming.
Listen, Nezuko's fake out death, like, this whole thing was such an ass pull. Also, for Heavenly Delusions, this scene went around for a couple days, and ew. In 2nd place for impactful moments, we have Summer. Now, this may surprise a lot of people, considering we had Gear 5 and Bleach come out at the same time, so why isn't this higher? Not a lot of people have been talking about Bleach. For Gear 5, it was a huge step in animation, but I don't think it left the mark that a lot of people thought it was going to leave. And I don't mean to undermine them, because they still are very impactful in anime history, but I also can't say that a lot of people have been talking about them, so I don't think that Summer left as much of an impact as some people may think it did. And the winner of impactful moments is Fall. With the release of Jujutsu Kaisen Shibuya arc, this is probably going to go down as one of the most iconic shonen arcs in modern anime. I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen was already popular, but now with season 2, it's definitely going to gain more of a fan base. And another anime that I think is going to gain a lot of popularity for years to come is Frieren. This anime genuinely came out of nowhere, and now has touched the hearts of many. But the main reason why this season is winning is because it probably has the most impactful moment of the entire year, which was the ending of Attack on Titan. Listen, you can say what you want about Attack on Titan. I know I, for one, have my opinions on it, but I can't deny that it is definitely the most popular, not even anime, but show of all time. And with it ending, I would argue that this was bigger than One Piece's Gear 5, nabbing this moment and season as the most impactful. And on to the next round. Openings are a beautiful thing. It's the one thing that connects all animes together, because it wouldn't be an anime without an opening.
Now that is a peak opening. You know what's not peak? 4th place for our openings category, which goes to... Winter again?
I know it feels like I'm really trying to kick Winter while it's down, putting it in 4th place again, but truly this was the hardest category to put together. So even though Winter is in last place, it still had some pretty good openings, such as River, Judgment, and the Tomo-chan opening. And the unappreciated openings from this season would probably be the Buddy Daddies opening. Overall, still a pretty decent selection, but unfortunately for you, Winter, I got nothing for you. Fall will be taking 3rd place in the openings category with an amazing selection. I just personally don't think it holds up compared to the other 2 choices ahead. Sure, we had specials from Jujutsu Kaisen, Be a Flower from the Apothecary Diaries, and of course we have Queen Bee and Yaotsubi returning in fall to have their own openings with the Undead Unlock opening and the Frieren opening. And it would be criminal if I didn't mention this, but you know that show Attack on Titan? This is the final opening, and it's kind of mid by AOT standards. But you know the singer Sim who sung The Rumbling? Well, they also made an opening this season that kind of goes hard. So even though this took 3rd place, it still had a very solid selection of openings. In 2nd place for the openings is Spring. And if you thought that I was going to somehow make it so that Idol would win the category,
No, I definitely tried to.
even on its own, we still had good openings, such as Heavenly Delusions. We also had Vinland Saga's 2nd opening, which is genuinely amazing. Work is a low-key bop, but it's not one of my favorites. There was even a Detective Conan opening that was pretty good this season, and after saying all that, Idol still carried. Listen, I'm sorry, okay? Like, I'm biased, yes, but even then, when Idol came out, this was a global sensation. Everybody was doing an Idol dance. And if you're gonna get mad at me, just know that I'm not so biased to the point that I put this whole season in first place because of Idol. And that being said, Idol's still opening of the year for me. Summer had great openings, to say the least. Zom 100 probably is the greatest redemption arc I've ever seen from an opening. Going from this visually bland and frankly pathetic openings, going into one of the most visually fun openings I've seen this entire year, perfectly backed up by Kanabu's vocals in the background. And I normally don't care about Bungo Stray Dog openings, but this new one was probably one of, if not the best opening in the entire series so far. Link Click made its return with probably one of the most beautifully animated openings I saw this year. Bleach managed to create an opening that spoiled the entire season without even spoiling the entire season, if that makes sense. One Piece's Gear 5 got its opening and people went ballistic, but for me, the best opening of the entire season and second place for best opening of the year for me is Jujutsu Kaisen's third opening. Did I mention how much I loved Hidden Inventory arc? The amount of bangers that came out in 2023 was simply unbelievable, and I don't know how 2024 is gonna keep this up. Sure, people are going crazy about the Mashal opening, which, yes, it is catchy, but it's going to be hard to top 2023. Next up is the meme category, and okay, I'm not even gonna try and hide the results on this one. Yeah, I don't think we really need to talk about this. It's pretty obvious who won this one. Fall was single-handedly the craziest month of anime I've seen in a bit. There was memes every single week, and it was just because of Jujutsu Kaisen. The amount of times I got spoiled because of a Jujutsu Kaisen meme was insane. The reason why summer took second place was because Jujutsu Kaisen was also airing during summer. But somehow, Bleach, an anime that came out in summer, got memes in fall. How does that make any sense whatsoever? Both spring and winter had the I have no enemies, so they kind of cancel each other out. So the reason that winter takes third place is because of the egoist memes from Blue Lock. So moral of the story, if you're in the meme category, pray to God that JJK was airing during your season. Or that a really beloved character ends up dying, because that's all spring had. And now, with all the categories out of the way, all that's left is to tally up the points.
You're never gonna believe it took last.
And in fourth place was Winter with 3 points. At its best, Winter was able to perform decently in the romance category, but fell short on just about everything else. In third place with 7 points is Spring. Spring may have started off strong in the romance department, but when it came to action, it got topped by Fall and Summer. In second place, we have Fall, probably the funniest season this whole year. It also just had amazing action in general. One thing that really sold it short was its lack of romance this year, causing it to just fall short. And for the best season of anime in 2023, with 11 points, was Summer. Overall, Summer was very well rounded, better action than Fall, and sure, it didn't have the best romance, but it was still more than what Fall could say.
You know, this was very fun to put together, and I could do this again next year, but
I'm already getting death threats.